The Man Whore podcast is sponsored by Cam Soda. Cam Soda has thousands of amateur girls next door and all of the hottest porn stars today, including Danny Daniels, Tori Black, and Brandy Love. Get free tokens today when you sign up at camsoda.com/podcast. The Man Whore podcast is sponsored by the Pure Hookup app. Pure Hookup lets awesome people have casual sex tonight. Download the Pure Hookup app on Google Play or the App Store. Pure, the hookup app that says it's a hookup app. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Shout out to all the historical hoes, obedient servants, and undercover jerkers. This is Billy Procida, and you are listening to the Man Whore Podcast. Hello, what's going on? Welcome to the show. If you're unfamiliar with my podcast, this is a show where I typically talk to women I've hooked up with about sex, dating, and why we didn't work out. However, this week's guest is not one of my former flames, although unbeknownst to him, we did sort of kind of share an intimate space together, but he only had just found out. You'll find out about that later. Today, I've got on stand-up comedian Eitan Levine, who is also the creator of the Hamilton porn parody. Yes, the Hamilton porn parody we've all been waiting for. That just came out back in December, and it was his idea. That's his baby. He wrote the damn thing. And he's going to share with us that story in a little bit. But first, no show dates right now, people. No show dates to share with you. Just know that today, Wednesday, January 31st, we will be having another Fan Whore Facebook Live hangout at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I should be saying noon Pacific because I'm going to be doing it from right here in the Bay Area. I will be, that's where I am currently, and that's the time zone I'm in. So to not confuse myself, that's what I should be saying. But whatever, wherever you live, that's where we're going to be at. We're going to be doing that on the Man Whore Podcast Facebook fan page. Yes, stop sending me friend requests. If anyone says, I can't find your fan page, you're searching the wrong thing. Just search Man Whore Podcast. It just takes you right there. Go click the like button and join us for this hangout for an hour. I like to answer your questions. I update you about how my month has been, and we have a grand old time. Also, head on over to manwhorepod.com. Sign up for that mailing list, people. I've got a new newsletter coming out next week, and in that newsletter, I will be announcing the dates for ManWhoreCon 2018. Yup. People on my mailing list will be the first ones to find out when they should be heading on over to New York City to hang out with me and your fellow fan whores for a whole weekend of sensual, sexy, and fun activities. ManWhoreCon. Sign up for the mailing list. Do it. All right. It has been a week. I am in San Francisco right now after spending a long 5 days in Las Vegas for the AVN Awards and the Adult Entertainment Expo. And it was just, wow, just such a blast. So much fucking fun. I've only been to Vegas twice. The last time I was in Vegas, of course, was 3 years ago when I did Team BJ2. You know, when I made my first and last porn appearance. Have not been back to Vegas since then, and it was just crazy. There were titties everywhere. It was fun. I had a blast in Vegas. I had a blast staying with the people I stayed with. We had this like big ass, huge swanky hotel suite that I was splitting with 3 other people. Shout out to Lindsay and crew. Hey, girl. And had a lot of fun. I talked to a lot of interesting people. Ended up recording 9 episodes. 9. That's a lot of Man Whore podcasts in just a few days. People, I got to tell you, you're in for one hell of a treat. It was so cool talking to all these porn performers because, you know, they're doing dozens and dozens of media appearances and interviews and video content stuff throughout the entire weekend. So a lot of them are kind of like worn out and they're all kind of just prepped to be asked the same dumb question over and over and over again. What's your favorite position? What's your ideal cock size? How do your parents feel about you doing porn? Blah, 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 blah. And I had fun not talking about that. Because, like, of course, like, what you enjoy about a cock is relevant if, say, we're talking about penises and you mention, oh, he had such a good dick. And I ask, well, what makes a good dick? But me just like out of the blue without context saying, how big do you like a dick? That's dumb. No, instead we talked about some like really, really cool topics. We talked about, we continued the theme of fan boundaries, how to have boundaries with your fans, whether that be online as a webcam person or at conventions and maintaining like your bodily autonomy when fans want to just like grab at you. And we talked about like proper etiquette when you're at a convention like Exotica or the Adult Entertainment Expo and how to be able to go up to your favorite porn star and ask to like take a picture with your hand on her ass in an ethical fashion. We talked about representation in porn. We talked about sex workers' Bill of Rights and all sorts of really, really cool topics. It's really, really fun. But I got to tell you, for me at least, I got a lot of connection fatigue. Only at AVN did I realize the emotional labor that goes into doing this podcast. When this podcast is done right, it's two people having an open and honest conversation, getting intimate, getting vulnerable, whether or not we've hooked up in the past, trying to get to like a real place. And I normally do one episode in a day. Sometimes I've done two. But on Friday, I did 4 episodes. 4. And at the end of the day, I was just so emotionally drained. I was just so like everybody was going to go out and there was like this like fun sex party that night going on in Vegas. And I just was not about it. I needed to lie down on the couch. I needed to curl up and watch a comedy special. I needed a nap. I probably could have used a hug. Because I had 4 intimate, open, and honest conversations for like an hour with pure strangers. So we would like instantly connect and have this like deep conversation and then we had to disconnect because they had to go to their next thing. I had to go to my next thing. And then I had to go and do it right again. So I was like, connect, disconnect, connect, disconnect. It was like going on 4 really, really good first dates that only lasted an hour and you knew that there was not going to be a second date. I've had to learn a really hard lesson over the 4 years doing this podcast. These conversations where the best ones involve someone crying and where the best ones when we turn off the mics go like, hey, can we have a hug? Even those, I have to remember, we are not besties. When we walk out the door, they go back to their life. I go back to my life. We don't end up becoming brunch buddies at the end of it. And I've had to learn that lesson the hard way, to be honest with you, because maybe it's just the type of love language that I speak. But when I connect with someone, I start to have this false feeling like, oh, like we're friends now. It's kind of similar to like when you see a sex worker, right? You just had this intimate experience. You just probably had sex or did some sort of fun kink scene, whatever it was. But you paid that person to have that experience with you. You also paid that person to go home after and not come back unless you hire them again. When you get a girlfriend experience, she is not your girlfriend when the time is done. You go your separate ways after. And so can be with, in my opinion, what is really good podcasting. Earlier in my career, I definitely struggled with the boundaries with past guests because I did think that, oh, like we are now friends. And maybe a couple people have been turned off by that and those connections are no more. Because, and that's just how we learn. So I had to go into this weekend and remind myself, Billy, you that was just a conversation. It was a really good conversation, but no, do not text them to ask if they want to go have dinner now. Not in a romantic or sexual way. Again, this is just like, there's just a platonic intimacy of sharing about an HIV scare you had with a total stranger. A story that maybe you've never told anyone before. And then sometimes the people do want to like have that friendly connection afterwards. And so there is this weird cat and mouse game where both sides kind of have to figure out, like, is it appropriate for me to reach out to someone who is just a professional media interview? Is it, acceptable for me to reach out and say, like, hey, like, that was a really cool conversation. Would you want to like have a drink? Do you want to hang out and have lunch? We're having a party at my place. Do you want to come by? You were really cool. So there was definitely an emotional fatigue by the end of this whole trip. So I hope y'all can appreciate fucking how hard that is for me. I basically got, and again, this can be man or woman. I mean, I talked to Ryan Driller, who at the end of it, I was like, dude, are we going to be bros? Like, are we going to go out to the bars and pick up chicks together? And I have to remember, like, no, we're not. We go our separate ways at the end of this. That was an interesting thing I had to remember. But if I learned anything from talking to all these porn performers and these porn peeps, whether on mic or off mic on the convention floor or at parties or whatever it was, is, porn really is work. They really do. They hustle. They hustle real hard because of the free porn society we live in. They have to make money from a lot of different revenue streams, whether it's sexting, phone sex, webcamming, selling merch, selling the clothing that they've worn during their shoots, privates if they're comfortable doing escorting, doing their own mini clip stores, whatever it is. They work really fucking hard. It really is a job. And it is a job that deserves your respect and deserves your legal protections just like any other. And I hope that by the end of these episodes you will see porn folks as people too. Speaking of which, I did run into a comedian, Dan Frigolette, who does do a podcast called Porn Stars Are People. So that's an unofficial endorsement. I have not listened to it myself. But if you do like listening to porn stars chat, you may want to go check it out. They literally talk about everything except porn. Yeah. So this week's guest, Eitan Levine, came up with the idea for the Hamilton porn parody. Now, that is a porn that you can go see on Pornhub for free. And you can watch it for free, guilt-free, because Wood Rocket, the production company, put it up there in its entirety for free for the purpose of you watching it. But you should be paying for your porn. Hashtag pay for your porn. Or you know what? As a common theme seems to be, hashtag pay for some of your porn. Put something out there into the universe. So that's why, and I tried to start this a few months ago and had a bit of a false start. So we're starting it over again. For this year of 2018, every month, Billy is going to pay for some porn, and I'm going to tell you about it. I'm going to encourage and hope that a lot of you will do the same. All you got to do is put in $20 to $50 a month. If you can put in $100 to $200 in a year towards porn, the porn industry, that makes a huge fucking difference. Whether that is a Brazzers membership, whether that is buying $100 worth of tokens on a webcamming site, whether that is buying just like an Amazon gift card for like some favorite performers of yours, whatever it is, put some money back into the industry so they can continue to make the excellent product that they do. Because you know what? If no one pays for anything, eventually the people who do it well are either going to stop or they're not going to be able to do it as well as you would like them to. For this first month, for January, I am promoting Crash Pad series. Yes, I did pick them the last time around when I was going to do this, and I'm picking them again because they're just that good. Crash Pad series is a wonderful Bay Area-based queer, kinky porn site. Some of their videos are kinky, some of them are not kinky, some of them are super queer, some of them are quite hetero. I honestly first picked them just because a lot of Man Whore podcast guests have shot with Crash Pad series. I think something like 9 of my guests have shot with Crash Pad series. So I was like, well, that seems like a good place to start. Then I started watching their videos. I was like, oh my, this is really hot. And I'm like even trying porn configurations I don't normally watch, like watching like a trans woman with a cisgender woman, or watching like a trans woman with a trans man, or watching like some kink scenes I maybe didn't think I was going to be into. So I encourage y'all to, whether it's Crash Pad series or not, go put some porn money out into the world. I myself started with a month of Crash Pad series membership. Next month, I will tell you all about another porn site that I chose, because together we can keep these good people working hard. You know, I was talking to my cousin who I'm staying with here in San Francisco about it, and she was astonished when I told her how little porn stars actually get paid for scenes. They're certainly not cruising and crushing it. I mean, the last night of my AVN trip, I slept with an AVN nominated porn performer. No big deal. But like, she still has a roommate. And she was nominated for an AVN. So do your part. Put something out there in the world. Crash Pad series, I think it was like $25 or $30 for a month membership. And I was quite happy with it. And not only should you pay for your porn, but you should pay for your content, for your independently produced content that you enjoy, such as this very podcast. I recently put out another bonus episode of the Man Whore Podcast, where I told a wonderful story about a bukkake bro I guess I formed an unofficial friendship with. And the bukkake he invited me to once upon a time. That is one of our Craigslist Chronicles over on Patreon. Tomorrow you will hear another bonus episode with Eitan Levine, where we talk about him growing up Orthodox Jewish, how that informed and affected his sexuality, and how he finally sexually came of age. All that stuff you can only hear exclusively on Patreon, and that is the money that allows me to go to something like the AVN Awards, or to San Francisco, or to other places to go record episodes of this show that you enjoy. This is how I am making my living. So you supporting me on Patreon, every single dollar, whether it's a $1 pledge or a $50 pledge, keeps me going. But now for this week's guest, Eitan Levine. Eitan I have known for a long time. I've known him since college. He was up at Yeshiva University. I was down at NYU. We ended up overlapping in the comedy worlds, and just stayed friendly through all that time. Then we ran into each other at a movie, and he told me some cool news last year. He was like, "Don't tell nobody, but I wrote a porno and they bought it." I was like, "What's the porno?" He's like, "We're doing a Hamilton porn parody." I was like, "Fucking fabulous. Oh my gosh, I love it." If you don't have I'm going to be very disappointed if you don't have the line, "Her hole was wide enough for Hamilton and me." I'm not a good singer, but yeah, so he tells a really, really fucking cool story that takes up the entire podcast. It's the story of just like how this came to fruition, from the inception of the idea to write a porno all the way to the release party that he had back in December. It's just a really fun story. Oh my God. I had such a blast talking to Eitan. We honestly could have talked for hours more, but we talked for like an hour and a half between this episode and the bonus episode. And we were like, we got to call it quits. I really hope you enjoy this one. Just a slight note. I promise we get to sex and porn and all that juicy stuff, but just get through like the first 5 or 7 minutes, because there's some, we do a little bit like podcast and comedy nerding out in the beginning. That's just kind of sometimes what happens when you put two comedians on a microphone together. So, if like a few minutes in, you're like, when are they going to get to all the sex stuff? It's coming, people. It's coming. Let's get to me and Eitan Levine.
1769. Porn Valley.
Oh, fuck. Are you Aaron Boner, the porner?
You know me from?
Debbie's Plymouth Rock. You're the porn star, Boner. I'm Alexander Hamilton. I'm a big fan, Boner.
Me?
Yes, of you and your big land, Boner.
Young man.
It's not going to be a thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to go spend an hour with another comic who has, 12 people are going to hear this.
I always get, and because podcasts are one of those things where like people put like so much stake into. I think in like the difference between like the top podcasts and like the next level podcasts, like in numbers are like crazy. The top 1% of podcasts hold all of the listeners.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's always interesting seeing like people like put emphasis on podcasts that like 10 people listen to at the end of the day.
And this is the number that always blew me away. This is very interesting stuff for people listening to a sex podcast.
I really want to talk. This episode is all the analytics of podcasts, no actual sex.
You know what the median average for a podcast is for a podcast episode is?
What?
The median average number is 200 or 150 now.
Interesting.
So if you get more than 150 downloads per episode, you're better than half of every podcast that's out there.
That is absolute insanity. People
Yeah.
are wasting their time. We're all just wasting our time here.
Yeah, all of us, except for us, right here, right now, because
This is
we're
the only podcast worth listening to.
Abso-fucking-lutely.
There's your soundbite.
Because that's my soundbite. That's going on the website in the referral section. But this is the one you got to hear because we're right now with comedian Eitan Levine, who wrote a porno.
I wrote a porno. Do you want me to say it or do you want to?
You say it. I think it sounds better out of your mouth.
I am the writer of Hamilton, an American musical porno. It is, as far as we know, it's the first porno that's completely wrapped. It is, of course, a parody on Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I've been calling myself Skin-Manuel Miranda as a joke because I love puns and
Well, I feel like when you write a porn parody, it becomes very pun heavy.
Oh yeah,
right. Like it's very tongue in cheek. You can't do a Simpsons porn parody and take yourself seriously.
No, we actually when we had started to make the porn, which I guess we'll get into like the full story a little bit, but like he said that Hamilton was the best name for a porn he had ever heard. When the guy that runs the company that ended up shooting it, so there was definitely a little, like, at least at the end of the day, there was so much pride in just knowing that.
Yeah,
the guy in the porn, was like, "Wow, that's the best name."
Yeah, it's did you have any other comics be like, "Hey, can I submit a packet for your porn?"
After the thing is, after the porn happened, am I holding this thing too far?
You're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
After the porn happened, I like. Every other day, literally, since then, like to this day, I still get people who are like, "Hey, if I want to get into writing porn, like, where can I go?" And I'm like,
I do have a screenplay in here for you.
That's easy. I show up to all these meetings, and they're like, "By the way, we're pitching you." No. So like every day, and people are like, "Can I get into porn?" And I'm like, "No, there's no market for porn writers, like just the writers. Like it's all the production and stuff like that. Like there was a special situation around myself doing it." But yeah, you can't just get into porn writing. I got paid $300 for one script.
Yeah, it's not the typical comedian success path.
No.
People were like, Eitan found a new path to success in comedy.
Yeah, I've been struggling for 8 years. I finally got my Just for Porn audition. And,
for porn.
That's a very inside joke.
Very inside. Anyone get that one?
Yeah. Also, I mean, ironically, Just for Porn also held in Montreal.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But normally, your stand-up. Do you still do stand-up?
I still do stand-up. I took a little bit of break because I got hired to write for some stuff, and I have like a 9-to-5 job now that's like writing and producing. And if you have a 9-to-5, it's not very conducive to doing stand-up, is what I've kind of been experiencing.
Even when it's like a 9-to-5 in the creative field.
Yeah. Literally.
You go like, this is the dream. I want to get paid to write, and they're like, oh, this feels like a job.
Yeah. When I first got my first writing job, I really stopped doing like stand-up back then. Now there's like an effort to continue doing it, but like back then I kind of stopped, and you can't do both. It's so interesting how I spent like all this time doing stand-up and comedy to try to get a writing job, and then like when I finally got a writing job, I wasn't able to continue doing stand-up to the amount that I wanted to.
I'm writing a note to myself. Promise listeners we get to sex and porn. Make it through 5 minutes. That's all. I'm like, just give them a promise that
they'll get to this. No, I think the rest of the time is just going to be tips for comics, like how to do their taxes, what they can write off and what they can't write off. Yeah.
Well,
hey, Ellie just walked in my room. This is we're doing. Somebody just walked into my apartment.
Yeah. Somebody is a roommate, right?
Roommate's brother. We're doing the podcast about Hamilton. This is Billy.
Hi.
Do your thing. I don't
Hey, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I'm just smoke some weed.
Oh, okay, fine. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.
Enjoy your thing.
So,
Thank
So how'd you find yourself to be a comic who randomly wrote a porn parody?
Okay, so let's I'll give you my career history. I think that like kind of ramps up into this. So when I had gotten out, I graduated Yeshiva University.
Very Jewish.
Very, very exceedingly Jewish. Literally the most Jewish college you can go to.
Yeah.
So after Yeshiva University, right at the end, I was a finalist to live in something called the MLB Fan Cave. And Major League.
Yeah, that useless space downtown where I'm like, what's your business plan?
Zero. The answer is there is no zero. There's zero plan. Baseball didn't take into account that the average fan age is 40, and they don't care about social media. Yeah. So they had this fan cave thing downstairs where, like, if you were a baseball fan, you would live in the old Tower Record store. So I was like a finalist living in it, and I didn't get it. And it was like a very long and arduous process. And when I didn't get it, it like was very depressing. And I just took a job. I was the online marketing coordinator for the Orthodox Jewish Union. I just, like, in a moment of shame, like, took that job. And 6 months later, I left that job.
Were you raised Orthodox?
I was raised Orthodox. I was born and raised in a modern Orthodox family. So, like, as much as we weren't like black hat, white shirt, but we still, like, kept Shabbos and, you know, kosher and stuff like that. We were very Jewish, but we also were like Met fans. You know what I mean? Like that's, you know, like that was the kind of we were just Jews in the modern world. I think it's like the phrase that they use a lot. And so I went to like an all boys Jewish like elementary school, middle school, high school. I went to Israel for a year. I lived in Israel at a yeshiva for a year in an all boys program. I came back. I went to Yeshiva University, which was another all boys program. I've met 8 women my entire life. No, I'm joking.
Okay. I mean, you are in the stand-up comedy world. Yeah. It's unfortunately possible.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Everybody I know that isn't Jewish is an open mic person, essentially. Okay. So I went to Yeshiva University. Okay. So at the end of Yeshiva University, I took this job. I hated it. I quit the job with no real plan. I ended up getting I was a social media coordinator and correspondent for the New York Comedy Festival, which I kind of just lucked into. And then from that, I got a job at Mashable. Mashable, I was writing, if you don't know what it is, it's one of those like content farms like Vox or Mike. So
all those clickbaity stuff.
Exactly. Like literally all those articles that
17 sex positions to make your period amazing.
Yeah, or like 9 legit AF things to do with avocado toast that are legitimately AF, legit AF. Like all those like dumb articles that you see.
52 things that you can put in your butt that won't send you to the ER.
I like the idea that there's like a sex BuzzFeed that you're like talking about.
Oh, yeah. They have BuzzFeed Yellow, I think it was called.
No, oh my God.
They have like a separate like sexy BuzzFeed page or something.
Like which I don't know, eggplant emoji are you and stuff like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I was there. I was writing for Mashable, and my time at Mashable ended. I went over to Elite Daily. Now Elite Daily was all of those articles, like the legit AF articles, or all those, but times 10 because it was. Half of the website would just do lifestyle content. There's an article on the website that is one of my favorite things I've ever read, and it was called 58 Things That Went Through My Head When I Found Out My Ex-Boyfriend's New Girlfriend Was Uglier Than Me. Like all those articles that you see on Facebook that you're like, who reads this shit? And then you click into
this guy wrote it.
Exactly. I was writing, but the thing is, I wasn't writing that. I was writing on the other side of the website. I was writing celebrity content and trending news. So for 2 years, I'd walk in every day and I'd write like 3 to 4 articles about the Kardashians and stuff, which I loved the Kardashians with a passion. You don't like the Kardashians,
dude? I was a fact checker at In Touch Weekly for 3 years. Fucking hate. I've got enough Kardashians for the rest of my life.
I like the idea that In Touch has the same level of like verification as like CNN.
Gossip Magazine's got a lot of fact checkers. You know. I had to get into some serious fights about like, well, we can't say cocaine because he didn't say cocaine. He admitted to drug addiction, even though we know Zac Efron totally is doing cocaine. We gotta say drug addict.
I used to like walk. I remember I one time wrote a thing in an article like angrily because I got obsessed with the Kardashians. I remember I one time wrote something like, "If Blac Chyna thinks she can get away with this bullshit, she's out of her goddamn mind." Like I remember like writing stuff like that. I was the Woodward and Bernstein of the Kardashians.
Oh my gosh.
There.
You look like the guy doing angry comments on the internet, but no one would ever guess about Kardashians.
No, not at all. I was before this. The first writing job I had, I was covering hockey. So I went from covering hockey to being pissed off that Kylie's lip kits were selling out too fast because I felt it was a scam, like stuff like that. So that was half of my job was celebrity content, and the other half of my job was doing like trending news, like all those. I describe it as like all of those local puff pieces that like like, let's say this mom throws a birthday party for her kid and like nobody shows up, and then she puts on Facebook like people come and like 1 million people come, and that becomes like a news story.
Yeah.
Like those stuff I would do. I would cover like Harambe and Chewbacca Mom and Gangnam Style, and I've met so many Instagram dogs. You want to get? I'll get into this. You want to know what's, you know what's complete bullshit?
What?
If you have, and we all know this is true, what I'm about to
Dogs,
say.
period? Yes, let's wipe them all out. No.
Get enough with the dogs. If you have a dog that has a severe disorder, like, or is autistic or something, and has like a face thing,
There's autistic dogs?
yeah. And if they become like a, if you start an Instagram account for them and it becomes like viral, you'll make bank off of that sick dog.
Yeah.
We would meet the dogs. They would get like 5-figure appearance fees, and the dogs aren't taking a cut of that.
Yeah.
The humans are taking all of the money from that. So that was what I would do for a while, and then at some point during my time at Elite Daily, I started pitching articles that I wanted to write. I was able to write original content stuff, and one of the articles that I pitched that ended up getting written was I go to my bosses. It was Caitlin and Greg back then. If you're listening, hey Caitlin and Greg, and I said, hey, can I try to get hired as a staff writer for a porn website? And this is where the whole thing kind of started. A couple weeks before that, I had pitched a video that ended up getting made at Elite Daily, and it was called "Porn Stars Do Their Taxes with an Expert." And we actually got Jaden James to come in, and she did her taxes with this guy, and we shot a piece. So it did very well. So I pitched them to try to get staffed as a porn writer, and I to this day don't think that I think that they didn't think I was going to follow through on this, but they kind of just like, yeah, sure, whatever, go for it. And I followed through, and so when I was hired at Elite Daily, I was the first trending news writer that was hired. And what that meant was that I became the point of contact for a lot of these PR companies. When you get hired to write for like content producing websites, what happens is that
PR companies just sort of fucking flood your
Exactly.
inbox.
I'm sure you get the same thing.
When
yeah.
I was writing at Laughspin, flood your inbox
Exactly.
with shit you don't care about.
No, I'd say I would get on average probably towards my end there, I'd probably get 50 emails a day from
I believe
people. I would open maybe 40. I would open maybe 5 of them. And there was always the promise of free stuff. That was was the way to get me to open the email was me seeing it and being like, oh, I wonder if I can get it free because of this. So I became a point of contact for all these PR companies, and one of the porn websites all have a PR company because as much as there's porn on there, like if you remember, like Pornhub had like a scholarship fund for like college
And then
people.
there's a publicist who goes and pimps those stories out. Yeah.
Exactly. So anytime,
And there's like not just we actually had one of like the top porn publicists on this show, Lainey Spicer, who like everyone I've met in the porn industry, everyone knows and loves this woman. And she's been in the porn industry like a little over 20 years as a publicist.
it's porn adjacent.
Yes.
Exactly.
But like specifically porn publicists.
just pushing out the porn.
Yeah.
That's but like that's this guy who we worked with was his name was Brian Gross, I think was his name.
Yeah. I'm talking to him now because he sent me up at AVN.
No way. There we go.
Yeah.
So Brian Gross was okay.
Still in the biz, Brian Gross.
Still got it. So Brian Gross. So I speak to Brian Gross had reached out to me for whatever the articles they were trying to pitch originally. So from that, I emailed him and I go, listen, I got this like crazy idea for a story. Is there any chance you can get me in touch with? I know that they had repped Wood Rocket, and I actually had covered a trailer that Wood Rocket had made like before. It might have been the SpongeBob one, or it might have been the Pokemon one. SpongeBob was SpongeNob SquareBalls.
Yeah.
Pokemon was Strokemon.
Yeah.
So we had covered the trailer.
It's a parody production company. Yeah.
Which is actually there's a legal difference that I learned when we had done this. All of these porn parodies, they can't be like the story from the thing that they're parodying and then sex. It needs to be commentary or like a clear joke on the thing that they're parodying. For instance, when we did Hamilton, it couldn't be like Hamilton and a sex scene. It needed to be completely its own thing.
It has to be clearly a joke. It has to be, I mean, that was what the People versus Larry Flint was all about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That was all about, I mean, as comedians, we all, we talk Carlin, we talk Lenny Bruce. I don't think enough of us recognize how much Larry Flint did for comedy, because he was the ones who really he went to Supreme Court and got us the right to do parody of public officials, because we can just ridicule people in the public eye.
Porn and comedy have always been weirdly linked. I recently watched the National Lampoon documentary that's on Showtime, which you should watch. It's incredible. But one of the parts of it was about how, like, National Lampoon early on, the way that they were able to get their name out there was that they were putting cartoons into Playboy. So all of it, one of that, all of a lot of the writers from Second City, like Harold Ramis, was writing for Playboy and stuff like that. They've always been so intertwined. They just have always been intertwined. I think they're probably because they're both like subcultures, or they're both like anti-establishment things. Comedy still is anti-establishment. It's still fighting against, like, whoever the man is. And porn early on was that also. Porn wasn't just porn, but it was kind of like it was a rights thing. People were trying to express themselves in a way that they were annoyed that the government was stopping them from doing. So anyway, so porn and comedy has always been linked. So Brian Gross. Okay, so I speak to Brian Gross. Brian Gross hooks me up with. I speak to this guy named Leroy Myers. Leroy owns this company called Wood Rocket, who I said before. They make porn parody stuff. All right. So do you want to stop for like a second?
Can we see if the table over there maybe
for sure.
doesn't? All right, so I think we've gotten the voices out of my head. It's a good sign.
Have you atoned for your sins yet? I feel like this is.
Well, so you're saying that, like, so legally, the porn parodies have to be so unbelievable. Basically, the idea is that they have to. A reasonable person shouldn't be able to believe that this is actually a Simpsons episode.
No one should turn on Hamilton and then like 20 minutes and be like, this has nothing to do with the Fed.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean. Like it's you got to watch it and know that it is something completely different from the
original.
From the original. So we speak to. Okay, so I end up. So he hooks me up with Leroy Myers. Leroy Myers owns Wood Rocket, the company that makes all of those parody porns. And we had they made Ass Venture Time. They made Fap to the Future.
Such classics.
The Criterion collection of stuff to masturbate to. What was the other? There's so many. Dr. Horror. Game of Bones. Anyway, so we
fantastic.
Literally, yes. Also, I like to think that all of those puns are against the establishment. Also,
yeah.
So I call him, and I go, hey, my name's Eitan Levine. I'm a writer for Elite Daily. I'd love to talk about doing this article on you guys, where I would get staffed as a porn writer to write a porn for you guys. And he goes, absolutely not. And I go, oh, okay. And he goes, listen, like, we want, if you do this, we of course, like, theoretically this would be fine, but if you do it, we don't want you on set. Like, we don't want you on set while we're filming. It's just not, we don't want reporters there, which I get, I respect. Obviously, like, shooting porn's got to be like, there's a certain amount of weirdness, I guess, there. So having reporters there, I understand that completely. And I go, okay, well, what if I don't want to be at the shoot itself, which from day one, I didn't want to be there while they were shooting it. Which maybe that has to do with my, like, more conservative upbringing, or maybe, I don't know, just, it felt like a weird thing to be there doing. So I said, if I don't show up to the shoot itself, can we, can I write it anyways? And he goes, okay, yeah. Why don't you do me a favor and come up with a bunch of ideas for stories and stuff, and then we'll call me in like a week, and we'll pitch me stuff. I don't know if we're going to accept any of your pitches, because we already have a slate of stuff we're looking to produce, but pitch, and we'll go from there. So I spent the week, I came up with a couple of ideas. I call him the next week, and the first thing I pitch him is Hamilton, and immediately he goes, yes. Great. Incredible. I love it. The name's perfect. I pitched him a couple other things he didn't take, but Hamilton was the clear, like, going from there. So
it was your idea from the inception.
It was. Hamilton was my idea. I don't remember where I came up with
I showed you that Twitter interaction I had, right?
Freaking Dak Shepard later on. Dak Shepard and Kristen, whatever the hell her name is. It's funny that I know Dak Shepard's name and not the significantly more famous wife's name.
Okay.
But a year after I'd come up with Hamilton, they made a joke on Twitter and everyone's like, ha ha ha, Hamilton's so funny. And I was pissed.
Oh, that's not what I sent you. I sent you what Leroy said back to me, like how I tweeted out, oh, I just booked, the writer of the Hamilton porn parody.
Okay.
And he tweets at me. He doesn't follow me.
Yeah.
I didn't hashtag Hamilton. So he was searching Hamilton on Twitter, found this tweet, responded to me and said, oh, you're interviewing me for what now? I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm talking about Eitan. And then he said something. He initially says, oh, yeah, he helped write it.
Yeah.
I sent that screenshot to you. He deletes it.
I will,
And then did a new tweet, was like, oh, yeah, Eitan's great.
No, let me just say, I don't know what Leroy is great. He's a great guy. In the end, we'll get, as the story progresses, I wrote some of it. I did not, I wrote the least amount of it at the end of the day. He wrote it. He basically wrote the entire thing minus whatever. And this other person, I don't remember the person's name, but there was 3 names on the script. So he basically wrote it. I came up with the idea and some
And
of
the
other
story,
stuff.
or?
Yeah, some of the story, I'd say maybe 10% of it. In the end of the day,
You fraud!
No. I'm like the movie about the smiling girl face, essentially. No, I'm very open about it. Yeah, I came up with I think the original idea was mine. Some of the I'd say
The title
was mine. A bunch of the story itself was mine. And then the dialogue, I'd say about 10% of it is stuff. I was watching it.
You really should have had a created by or based off the concept of
essentially
type credit.
Literally, yeah. All of a bunch of the names of the characters are mine. And stuff like that. I'm very open about this.
And who were the character names? Let's just get those out of the way.
I mean, obviously Alexander Hamilton, the star,
played by Tommy Pistol, right?
Tommy Pistol.
He's a big deal. He's nominated for an AVN.
When we had started this process, he was the only name that I knew. Immediately, Leroy's like, we got to get him. There's an obvious problem with porn stars rapping and doing another thing, while they're doing it. So, so Tommy Pistol's great in it, and he's actually very good in it. Also,
he's very fun.
Yeah. So he does that. Then you got Queen Horge, who's played by Missy Martinez, which was it's been a little bit funny because she's retweeted me my I don't tweet about porn that often, but she's retweeted my non-porn jokes, which has always been very validating, knowing that a bunch of porn stars are thinking that me and a bunch of porn stars have the same sense of humor, which is nice. I don't remember the other lady's name, but the Skylar Fisters, or the Fister sisters,
and of course they're stepsisters,
obviously
from different misters.
You memorize more than
which really bugged me, because if your stepsister's fine, but if they're from different misters, I know you're trying to rhyme it, but then you shouldn't have the same last name. What was there, an adoption involved in this? If you have the same mom, you're supposed to have different last names. And that was the one plot point that really got to me.
Maybe that's where their parents bonded. They were like, we have the same last name. Yeah. Interesting. And then they had sex because of it.
And then Aaron Burr was instead.
It's why I've had sex with Adam Levine. It's the exact same thing. Aaron Boner. I will say Boner is my favorite name in the thing because the rest of them are puns, because we had Queen Horge and I don't remember if George Washington's made it in, but George Washington's was an original character. So it was just funny because they all had kind of clever names. Hamilton was kind of clever, Washington was kind of clever, and then just Aaron Boner. That was it. So Aaron Boner's in it, and I think that was everybody it was a small cast.
Very small cast.
It was kind of like the Waiting for Godot.
Waiting for Godot porn. It's one scene, but what I loved about it is it's 5 minutes before you see fucking anything.
It's 8 minutes until sex happens.
Yeah.
And then there's sex, and then there's about 5 minutes of wrap up
at
story.
The end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I pitch him the story idea. It gets accepted. At this point, I tell Elite Daily is aware of this, and there was a separation between my department and the video team. So when we told the video team, they had actually gone on board. So now this became an article and a documentary that was getting shot.
Right.
So we speak to him. We ends up being decided that we're going to fly out to Vegas to write this porn. So this also is an interesting point in this thing because I now have to decide if I want my name to be associated with this.
Right.
Like I said before, I was born and raised in a pretty religious community, and obviously my parents were not a fan of this. So the documentary, like the first scene in the documentary is, I had to call my mom and tell her, and I go, I'm going to Vegas to write this porno, and she goes, no, you're not, and I'm like, yeah, I have to go. She's like, you're absolutely not going. If you go and write this porn, your sisters will never get married. You will never get married. I would rather you join ISIS than do this to our family. My mom has that prepared.
I would rather you join ISIS. Put that on a poster.
Oh, man. If that sentence has followed me for a year and a half. So that scene where we're filming this call, I'm sitting on a couch in in one of the conference rooms. Behind that is the producer, the camera guy, and then three editors who are there, and everyone is dying of laughter when they hear my mom go, I would rather you join ISIS and do this to us. And I am on the verge of tears.
Oh no!
Because it's so funny, but it's so awful what I feel like I'm doing. So this is the first time I ever talked about this, but I was very conflicted early on. Oh. I almost dropped out of it once, and it was right after that phone call, but I didn't. I've never actually admitted to that, but I did. There was a moment after that where I did almost drop out of it because I didn't know if I wanted my name, or I was almost about to do it as an anonymous thing at the very least. So we go. Okay, so I decided. So we do it. I go over to Vegas, and we go to the porn. And so we go to the to Wood Rocket Studios. Wood Rocket Studios is literally is attached to a porn store. I can actually show you the photos, which is great for the podcast.
In this audio medium.
Yeah. Vamp.
That's all right. It's going to be cut anyway.
Going through. Come on.
I'm clearly not taking Bo Burnham's advice where it's like, never waste a moment. Every moment can be a comedic moment.
All because he's 20 years old and doesn't sleep doesn't mean that I need to do what he does. That effing prodigy. You know how pissed off Bo Burnham makes me? Because he's so good and so fucking young.
Me too.
He's one of those that you see and you're like...
that Comedy Central Presents special was, our sophomore, junior years?
Yeah. In high school.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He was we're the same age. No, it was our sophomore, junior year of college, and he was just about to drop out of NYU because he's a year below us.
He did something big in high school. He was big. Well,
he had a big YouTube channel, and then he had his own album. And they took that first self-released album and they made it into a Comedy Central Presents.
Man, and it's good. It's so good.
That was the one that's the math song and things like that. And
he had a grasp of the language in comedy so early.
Yeah.
Unfair.
He reminds me of Carlin.
Yeah.
Just Carlin, but with
cuter.
Cuter with a
way more breakable. This is the studio. You can see it's
just a tacky adult toys DVD sign and then Lion's Den.
Exactly. It is literally a porn store, like an adult store, and we go in. So this is. I can give you all these pictures later if you want. Also, so this is so we go in. This isn't going to suit the story, but we go in, and immediately what happens is that I go. He takes me on a little bit of a tour of the studio itself. The sets on their sound stage. There's about 4 or 5 stages that are set up. They had just finished filming the 10-inch Mutant Ninja Turtles porn. So that was still set up. The set was set up. Next to it is where they actually filmed Hamilton. Is the set of Full Holes, the Full House parody.
Of course, naturally.
Now, if you watch Hamilton, you can actually see the set kind of looks like the living room from Full House,
but completely emptied out with just the couch.
Literally, if you were to take all of the furniture and stuff out of the set, it looks the same as the Full House set from the show. So there's that. Next to that was the Game of Thrones, the Game of Bones throne was right there. Some of the SpongeBob set was still up. Some of the Ass Adventure Time I think was still up. Some of the Dr. Horse stuff I think was still up. But yeah, so we go in. I get to try on the SpongeBob SquarePants SpongeBob SquareBall suit.
And you're like, you know what? You don't have to pay me anymore. Like, I'm good now. I'm
Literally
just very happy.
And there's a moment where I'm putting it on, and I'm like, man, someone fucked with this. This is kind of interesting. And it's funny also because there's like a hole by where the penis is supposed to go out, and I just remember thinking like, oh man, I don't know if I'd be able to do that. Like it's just it was weird. Anyway, so we write it. So we write it like a script. It was interesting to write a porn because I thought that we'd kind of just start writing, but what really happened is that we first had to figure out story and plot and characters, you know, and where we wanted the story to go and what the story was going to be about. So there was actual like thought, and some of the charts that I have pictures on look like the same charts I have from like when I write pilots and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like it's the same thing,
and you have less time to do it in the sense of. Yeah, it's got to be similar to like with an action movie because in action there's all that action stuff where there's no actual like plot development and dialogue, so you actually have less dialogue and like plot development time.
Exactly. Die Hard without the action scenes is 20 minutes of conflict resolution.
Yeah, it's just a guy like in a fight with his wife.
Yeah, literally. It's just a beautiful story. It's literally like the Family Man, essentially.
Right.
Yeah. So it's.
What type of ideas are you throwing out? Like, what were some ideas that got thrown out and you didn't even make?
Oh man,
What's your favorite thing that didn't make it into the script?
Favorite thing that didn't make it into the script is just a line that I had where at the end of it, Hamilton dies at the end of it. Spoiler alert. And at the end of it, I wanted to have during the wrap up when everyone's saying like all the things that he's accomplished. I don't know if you've ever seen the musical.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you saw it. So at the end of it, they're kind of just saying like, you know, they're having that moment like we died for him, we fought for him, you know, whatever. So at the end we have our own version of that. And originally I did have a line that was in it that just went, Hamilton wrote the other 69, and I thought that was a funny one that did not exactly face palm.
It's just such an obscure reference within the thing.
The story ended up being I don't remember the plot that got thrown out or whatever because we really just I don't think I thought about that stuff before because I didn't think that it would be anything more than that. Like you said,
like I got the pun, I'm done. We're good, right? Let's shoot it.
I don't need any. You've got what you need from me. It was the musical or the porn is 30 minutes. I think a little bit under 20 of it is you know sex. So like you said, like all of that plot had to be pushed in before and after. So what we end up coming up with is the story of this is the original plot. It is not like the plot that ended up getting put into Hamilton. So the plot goes like this: there's a guy named Hamilton. He's living in like the beach, like down in the Bahamas, and he's shooting Girls Gone Wild style porn. The original opening lines to the musical were, what does it take to make a well-endowed man shooting flashes of gashes in the Caribbean, drunk colonial spring breakers on an anti-candy can, but just like Tom Hanks, he wanted to be a big man to do legit porn, but the islands are holding him back. Girls' tight shorts, something gacked was a phrase. But basically, he's in the Bahamas shooting porn, and he wants to go up to America to become a big porn star. But King Horge has British porn rules, and the British porn rules state that you can only have very boring sex on camera. So he wants to go up there and be a revolutionary and changes it. One of the things that eventually did get cut from it was that we had a montage of it was the Battle of Porktown. And it was going to be a fight. It was British porn versus like American porn, and it was just it was porn puns versus porn puns about like Debbie does Plymouth cock, stuff like that.
But the Debbie does Plymouth cock made it in there.
I think that may have come from the original script. I could be wrong. Once again, Leroy, don't shoot me. But that was like that. Yeah, anyway, so we had that.
It's so weird that when you say don't shoot me, but I think about like a porn producer in Vegas, like, yeah, I might shoot you. I don't know.
Can I just say something about Leroy? Leroy is one of the nicest men I've ever met in my entire life. But more than that, while we're shooting the documentary, it becomes very clear that in an alternate timeline, he's me. He literally is just like a funny, kind of chunky guy like I am, who was working in TV, didn't like it, so he wanted to create stuff and he wanted to make it faster, and he didn't want like red tape, so he opened up his own studio and he puts out stuff, which I think is. I did not expect someone to get into porn like that. I don't know what I expected someone to be doing before they ended up in the situation that they're in. Not that it's a bad situation, but like I did not expect it to be someone who was working in TV, thought that it was annoying how long it would take to make stuff. So he got out and found a way to make stuff faster and a way to churn out stuff. Because when I found out, we'll get to this later, but when I found out that Hamilton was actually being made, in between then and when it was released was about a week, a little bit under a week, if that. I found out the release day.
Well, you thought it was like a year or so ago. You thought it was going to happen, and then there's all this
exactly
gap
so,
time.
Yeah. So what happens is, so we shoot the porn. Hamilton gets so let me back up. So we finish the script. The end of the story is that Hamilton comes to America, starts doing porn. He decides, I'm going to do one thing that British porn rules don't allow. I'm going to do anal sex. Now, at this point, also something interesting I learned. The script that we wrote literally was like, I think 5 or 10 pages of rap, and then it stops. It goes parentheses BGA, which means boy girl anal.
Okay,
and then it finishes the script. So I thought that was interesting. Like, that's how they kind of market, where there was like dialogue, BGA, dialogue.
Right.
So they film the sex. What happens is that they're at like the AVNs back, the Confederate constitutional AVNs or whatever we said. Hamilton, and then Aaron Boner gets up there and goes, "Oh, Hamilton did this illegal porn." So he ends up showing the anal sex porn, and everyone's like, "Oh, you guys have to duel now because whatever," which ends up just being who would masturbate and like last the longest, I think, was like the thing we ended up on. And then Hamilton dies of exhaustion. I remember that you ever seen Bloody Bloody Andrew Jackson the musical?
No.
There's a line in it where they talk about how his mom dies of a broken heart, and the dialogue is like, and his mom died of a broken heart. Because you died from stuff like that back then. So like that was the same thing that for me was like Hamilton died of exhaustion.
Back then, back in the 1700s, sometimes you just came too hard.
Literally that. He came so hard that
I know
he
Hamilton died in the early 1800s. Stop correcting me, okay?
They're gonna rail you in the forums on this.
So wait, why was there this big gap between when we saw each other at Sing Street and when the thing? Because that was like a year or so ago, and then it just came out recently in December.
Yeah. So what happens is, so we leave. So I leave Vegas. I go back. I finish the script. I send him the script, and there's production delays. I was calling it adult production hell. You know, like it got delayed on their part. And eventually, it kept on getting delayed and delayed and delayed. For no other reason.
They were like, well, we're so close to Oscar season, so we gotta like strategically release.
Well, there was that issue because we had done it before they had won the Tony. So we had tried to get it. We kept on trying to like get it at certain like milestones for it, and eventually just kept on getting postponed. I thought it was going to be dead.
The Man Whore Podcast is sponsored by CamSoda.com. Cam Soda is today's digital strip club featuring thousands of hot amateur and professional models putting on seriously sexy shows for you 24/7. I'm literally on there right now. It just took me like a minute to sign up. And now I'm watching like a hot chick with big tits and pink hair with a vibrating egg in her pussy. So like every time someone tips her, she starts shaking. It's so hot. I may need to grab some lotion after I finish recording this. Cam Soda is great because there's no subscription or rebilling. You know, sometimes you sign up for these things and then you get charged for like 6 months before you remember you got to cancel. No, there's none of that. You just buy the tokens you want to get. And Cam Soda is giving Man Whore Podcast listeners 50 free tokens to start when you sign up at camsoda.com/podcast. I know it's usually Man Whore Podcast, just podcast. Again, start your free trial by visiting camsoda.com/podcast. It's totally free to sign up. I just did it right now. camsoda.com/podcast. The Man Whore Podcast is proudly sponsored by the Pure Hookup app. Oh, you all know I'm a big fan of the Pure app when I'm just like interested in getting some casual sex tonight. When I'm traveling around, one of the first things I do the first night is I log on to the Pure app and see if anyone's around in the nearby area for some good old casual fun. Unlike other dating apps and swiping apps, there's no ambiguity of why everyone's there. You're all there to have casual sex tonight. It's the whole purpose of the app, and that's why I love it. And you should give it a try too. Go download the Pure Hookup app on Google Play or the App Store. Pure. The Hookup app that says it's a hookup app. Now let's get back to the show.
At this point, Elite Daily is kind of shutting down. To be honest, I was a little bit aware that they were going to be shutting Elite Daily down. At the time, there were like 120 people that were working there. Like when they had a mass layoff, I think like 100 plus of us got laid off at the same time. So when this happens, I lose my connection to Leroy because, I don't have his email or anything like that. I lose the documentary essentially because they have all the footage. Luckily, off the record, we may or may have not have gotten that footage. So on the record. It's not like
okay. I was like, do I need
that
to
was
cut
like
that?
more. I don't think.
Okay.
I think Bustle owns the stuff now.
Sure.
If they want it, they can have it. I mean, whatever. So they own it. I mean, it's in one of their servers
Yeah.
somewhere. So yeah. I'm not going to get sued for this, basically.
No, it's fine. So your Elite Daily's gone. Like you don't have the job. Like
Exactly.
it's gone. You don't have the job anymore. You don't have the connections. You don't know what's going on. You don't even know if this porn that you worked real fucking hard on for $300 and upset your poor mother over is even going to fucking happen.
And it's annoying also because this was such a public thing. Like we had like a press release and we had people knew and people kept on asking me and I was like, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. And at some point I just thought this is going to be like the coolest thing that never happened, basically.
Right.
So at some point, Elite Daily ends. I get a new job. I'm doing fine. The porn is just a thing that I wrote, and a friend of mine messages me and goes, "I think a friend of mine got casted in your porn." And I go, "What?" And he goes, "Hamilton." And my first reaction was, "Someone stole my idea."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Oh, send me what? How do you know?" She posted it. Let me see it. And he sends me her post, and it's the poster we worked on for Hamilton. And I'm like, "Oh my god. Is Hamilton happening now?" And I call Leroy. I remember I'm on 86 on Broadway. I'm walking around. I call Leroy and I go, "Hey, you, what's happening with Hamilton?" And he goes, "Oh, we've been emailing you. We're making it." And I go, "Oh my god, my Elite Daily email shut down." And he goes, "Oh, we were trying tweeting you." And I never got a tweet. So that means that someone with a similar name to me had just been getting tweets from Leroy being like,
Some
"Hey."
other Orthodox Jew named Eitan Levine.
So there's another one who's one of the other Eitan Levine's is getting tweets every day that's like, "Hey, we're making your porn." And they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
Or he's like, "Oh yes, finally, I've been mailing them scripts every month."
Or he's like, "Finally, they're making an Eitan Levine parody porn."
Yes.
A porn about my life.
Oh, my sad.
My sad life, and then sobs. So I call him, and he's like, "More than I'm on set right now," and I go, "Oh my god, you're literally on set?" And he's like, "Yeah," and I go, "What? When's it coming out?" And he goes, "In a week," and I go, "Oh my god." So I find out that the porn is getting made,
right.
And then it comes out, and we have this like big party. We had a release event at Videology in Brooklyn, and that was kind of the story.
Which you had Jamie Loftus performed on, who
Jamie.
she recorded the day of your release party.
Oh, she's on the she's so
Yeah,
freaking funny.
she was last month's comedian.
She's got the funniest
great.
Instagram. Sorry, the funniest like Facebook and Instagram I've ever seen in my entire life. I never met her. I never seen her perform. I literally just knew she was in town because she had posted about she's performing her thing at the Pit. So I go, "Is there any chance you want to perform this?" And she goes, "Yes." And she came. It was incredible. We had from that day. We also had the person that plays Queen Horge happens to live in Brooklyn. Her name is she's
Melissa Martinez, you said?
No. She played the Pfister sister. Her name is Clara Biznass, but she has like an official name. She's in something called Handjob Academy, which is like a rap. She doesn't do porn. She's porn adjacent.
Okay,
is this term that I've been finding and having to use. So she came to be part of the Q&A. Also, David DeKeglia, who makes all the music for these porns. He did the Strokey Month theme song and the SpongeBob Square Balls theme
song. And then
song.
you and a bunch of hipsters in Brooklyn
literally
watched a porno together.
Exactly. And it was so funny because there were people there from like who I knew from Jewish
How long
high
was
school.
The line at the bathroom being like, "Okay, I need to get in right now.
I gotta go. Well, okay, so I did this very smart. I watched it the night before we had gotten a cut of it.
Sure.
I don't know if you ever been to the Museum of Sex?
Yeah.
Okay. Museum of Sex, if you go with people, is fun for 10 minutes and weird for an hour. You know what I mean? So this was a similar thing. I got the porn, and about 3 minutes into the sex part, I'm like, wow, we can't just show the sex. So what I did was that when we showed it on the screen, we had the first like 8 minutes go, and then as the sex is happening, right when it's about when the guy's penis is about to get pulled off, I put myself into the video, just like a video from home where I'm like, oh man, this is hot stuff. Well, for now, I'm gonna do you all a favor, and we're gonna mute the porn, and then like me and Taylor Ortega, who's a comedian, one of my good friends,
Yeah.
she was so freaking funny. So she hosted like one of the Q&As with me.
You did the Q&A during the
the
fucking.
sex. So literally, it was fucking above me, and then me and Taylor with microphones talking, trying to make it not awkward. The smartest thing I've ever done.
That way, no one's like jerking off during the movie.
No, I assumed I was jerking everyone's minds off
Sure.
with my great answers.
Yeah.
So
Jerking off during the movie must be weird.
We also had Skylar Fulton, who was one of the producers for the documentary, who was there. And it was a beautiful night. It was a weird, beautiful night where in a million years, I can't imagine a scenario that would have gotten me to that time and place in my life.
Amazing.
It was a highlight. Yeah.
Well, in this story of this, the one minuscule appearance cameo even on the cutting room floor that I appear in is I went to go see Sing Street last year,
Yes.
which is a wonderful movie if you want to cry your eyes out and believe in love again.
You should let them know though, no one fucks in it.
No one fucks in it. It's all kids.
It's all kids.
So, not acceptable.
Except for the woman in it who you're like the whole time who's supposed to be like hitting on this teenager, and you're like, you're 30.
Right.
Correct?
And so I go to see Sing Street, and I get to what was then the Bowtie Cinema, which is that movie theater on 23rd is still my favorite movie theater in New York City, and I'm so bummed that Movie Pass doesn't cover it. I've complained.
It's like Citropolis
now it's
or something?
Cinepolis.
Cinepolis, yeah.
And then when it changed over, they don't carry it no more. But they have caramel popcorn. So
Yeah,
it's
it's a date theater. You know what I mean? Like AMC is like where you take your Gumar, you know,
AMC
but you take
is
your
Gumar
wife
like a fuck buddy?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's like an Italian. In
Gumar is
the mafia, you got your wife and you got your Gumar.
it's like your concubine.
Yeah. So you take your Gumar to AMC, you take your wife to Cinetropolis, Cinepolis.
So I go, and it's like the afternoon, so it's completely empty at the time I walk in. And I jokingly take a picture of the empty theater and say, hey, Twitter, anyone want to have sex in a movie theater right now? I'm on 23rd Street, seeing Sing Street for the 3:30 showing. DM me, come through and DM me or whatever. Because I was like, hey, best case scenario, like just a random Twitter follower shows up and like wants to fool around. Like,
has that happened before?
I've hooked up with Twitter followers, but that like me saying who wants to fuck right now? No, I'm not that cool.
Okay,
not nearly.
You're not like a star. You're not like Josh Hutcherson. You know what I mean?
No. If Josh Hutcherson posted like who wants to suck my dick right now, I'm on this corner, there'd be a line.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm at the Best Buy on 14th and Broadway. Twitter Nation.
Blow me in the parking lot.
Yeah.
So I tweet this picture, just kind of hoping, and I'm still in this theater by myself. And then the lights come down. And I don't think I saw you come in with the lights on, because I don't think this would have happened this way. If not, anyways.
I came there to fuck you, by the way.
Ah, shit. I missed my opportunity.
I know.
So I get a DM from this woman who is like a journalist, but like also a sex worker sometimes. I had paid her to lick my asshole years ago, and like
we've all got one of those. I mean,
right. It was when I had just moved in my apartment. The show was like 2 episodes old. I'd moved into my apartment, and I had the place to myself for a week, and I wasn't dating anyone. I had no hookup prospects for those 4 days, and I was running out of time to like make use of this completely empty house to myself. So I was like, okay, let's get like a happy ending massage at least, because that I can do comfortably without people in the home. And I do my shopping, settle on this one person, cute, and I was like, it was affordable, good price.
Right.
And I was like, hey, well, what would be acceptable? I like kissing, so we were like, would you do kissing? And then I think I just threw out there, I was like, what about rimming? And she's like, we could do that. I was like, okay, cool, like let's do it. Comes over, it was a great time, and then we just mostly sometimes randomly on the internet said, hey. She starts DMing me, flirting me, and I was like, oh, you're gonna come by? She's like, oh no, I can't. But then starts sending me like naughty pictures, and now the trailers are on. But like I'm just sitting there, kind of just like, okay, pictures. Some guy walked in. And walked for some reason right into the fucking row in front of me with like 3 or 4 seats over. So like in theory, I'm like sort of peripheral vision of his if he were to look even a little bit to the right. And I start getting hard, and she starts coaxing me. I started like, oh, I'm so hard, I'm so horny. She's like, you should like touch yourself right now. And I'm like,
I'm in the theater during this?
I didn't know you were in the theater. No, the guy who walked in front of me is a different guy because you were on the far left, totally different area. But I had like a row to myself. So I took my coat and I covered my whole body. It's a big coat. And then I took my dick out and I started jerking off in the theater.
And I'm in the theater while this is happening.
During the trailers before Sink Street. And like I finished, but like I have to finish before the movie starts because the movie is all kids.
Yeah.
If you get caught jerking off during the trailers and like Kate Winslet's up there, someone would be like,
it's deniability.
It's like Shawshank Redemption. It's like, it's forgivable if not understandable if not forgivable.
Yeah, that's the same problem when I saw Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted. I was like, I can't jerk off when David Schwimmer the giraffe is on.
Yeah, you gotta finish before the kids come on screen. So like I jerked off in the theater.
Is it first time jerking off in a theater?
I've done stuff in theaters, but I've never jerked off in the theater.
Yeah.
Certainly haven't finished in the theater by myself. And so, but I did.
But you've
that.
attempted to before?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't believe so. I do not. I cannot recall.
This is, for me, I would remember that for all time.
I feel like I would, but I have terrible memories sometimes. So who knows? And I'm like also like taking pictures for her too during this. So I did that. Then I watched this beautiful movie.
It's really, honestly, if you haven't seen it,
Sing Street People.
It is so nice of a movie.
It's the movie you always see a trailer for or look at the post for and be like, oh, maybe I could see that, and you never watch it. But I'm so glad I saw it because it was just, makes you believe in love.
And plus, you probably saw it with like a new, a refreshing.
I was very clear-headed. We'll say that. So, and then the movie's over and everything's good. I'm a lefty, so like I don't have to worry about like shaking people's hands. But then the lights come on, and I'm like, "Oh, Eitan, hi, how you doing? Wearing
I'm
X-ray
there.
goggles by chance?"
Your old priest is there. Your whole family's
right.
Just more people from your life.
I mean, it's pretty much just three people. It was like the guy in front of me, and then like us two. And
oh my god.
And so and then you tell me like, oh, I'll tell you a thing, but you can't tell anybody because it's kind of secret. I got hired. We're making.
And you were one of the first people to know. You knew before my mom knew. You knew before everyone.
Yeah. So and that was the one thing in the story that like I fondly remember.
That is so funny.
Is me jerking off in the theater. Being coaxed by some person I don't fool around with.
Did you see her after?
I've never seen this woman in person since the time I paid her to fool around with me.
Kiss your butthole.
To kiss my butthole.
That's nice. Well, you should. Did you send her? Did you tell her about Hamilton?
No,
you gotta tell her.
Well, I didn't tell her then because I was sworn to secrecy.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And I'm very loyal. So
Fort Knox of information over here.
So there was that, and that's a story I don't think I've ever told, at least in its full entirety before, and that's uncomfortable to say. Well, it's a PG-13 movie.
Have you done it since?
No. I again, like I said, I've fucked in. I haven't fucked in a movie theater
What's
yet.
the farthest you've done?
Well, just lots of oral.
Okay.
I've done plenty of orals in theaters.
Okay. And have you given or you've just received?
The first time was she blew me. Then I went down on her and fooled around with her a bit. And then
how mechanically does that? Like you can mechanically it's easier to go down on a guy than a girl.
Sure.
How do you do that?
You gotta get up in there.
Okay.
When you're having her scooch to the front, and then she's wearing a little black dress in this scenario with no panties because that's how I directed her to. I believe I've told this story before, but I mean probably years ago. I don't think I've told this story in a long time. But essentially, it was someone on the internet on like a random site. I pitched her a scenario. We walked into this movie Tuesday afternoon at the Regal. No one's really there. We're in the far back. I go in separately. She knows to come in.
We're gonna go see Spy Kids.
No, it was In-Betweeners 2. Because that's just what was on. I think it was a movie. I was like, what will no one be at? Originally, I picked Premium Rush because who's gonna go watch Josh Gordon-Levitt on a bicycle?
Oh,
and apparently, and I'm online and I'm like hearing everyone say, "Oh, Premium Rush, Premium Rush." I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't pick this one.
I'm sure that was a huge problem for a lot of people.
Right, and all of them were trying to get blowjobs in there. And we're in the back, so she knows to come in, look for a guy in a white hat, sit down next to me, don't say anything, and when I touch your thigh, that's the sign that we can start fooling around. And so like I purposely make her wait sitting next to me in silence before we start fooling around. When I put my hand on her thigh, like then we start making out. I start touching her. I'm putting my hand up her dress, and she's wearing a little black dress with no bra, no panties, because those were the instructions.
We have very different movie experiences.
Right. Then she goes down on me. Then I go down on her, and then a little bit later, I watched very little of the movie. A little bit later, she blew me a second time, and then the movie was over. She blew me like pretty much right before the credits started, nice. and then I've never seen her again. Still want to get her on the show, but she's very shy. Very shy.
I can imagine.
Yeah, the second time I got blown in a movie theater.
One time made out in a subway station. That's the closest I get to this.
Second time was I saw Silver Linings Playbook with Mistress J, who is a fan favorite of this podcast. She's episode 2, and then some other random return episode. A lot of people seem to like her. We went to go see Silver Linings Playbook down at the Angelica, and we did not know I was going to get blown. We're in the back, and the theater particular theater we were in was one where the door is just directly to my left is the door to come in. So although we're in the furthest back, someone opens that door like, boom, hi, it's us. Yeah. I'm just watching the movie because I was like, it's David O. Russell. This is going to be an amazing film.
Incredible Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence. A beautiful tale of love and mental health disorders.
Yeah, we get to the scene where like they're practicing, and I think he calls her out on the letter or something.
Yeah.
And I'm crying, like I'm starting to tear up. I'm in tears. And then we get to the next scene. I'm starting like, wiping my face, and then Jay puts her hand on my thigh. And I'm like, what? And all of a sudden, like I'm like instantly hard. She grabs my cock over my jeans. I'm looking around because like the Angelica, if you've ever been, it's very tight rows. Like it's not conducive for much movement. There's kind of people who could, in theory, see us.
If you take your Gumar to AMC and your wife to Sinopolis, then you take like the professor you're trying to have sex with to the Angelica.
Yeah.
It's that kind of theater.
Yeah, and she just really, unbeknownst to me, just takes my cock out. That's nice. And then just fucking goes to town. And like it was a hot blowjob. I wasn't expecting it.
Did it have anything to do with the movie itself?
No, it wasn't like a hot scene. I guess she just was feeling horny. And just grabbed my cock. I was like, okay, I'm game, whatever.
I gotta follow you for like a day and just see like it seems like you just fall into vaginas.
That's
like,
the thing. My daily life's not that exciting, but I do fall into stuff. I find that most of the sex I have is purely by accident. I don't deserve most of it.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
And the third time I got blown in a movie theater was the second time I saw Avengers Civil War. Oh, it was the third. Sorry, it was the third time I saw Avengers Civil War. I went with my ex-girlfriend, and I took her to see it because she hadn't seen it. And I was like, I could see that airport fight scene as many times as anybody wants.
It's a great scene.
Yeah. So we go do it, but like she blows me. It was in one of those theaters where it's just ample. I think it was Cinepolis again. It's just ample.
Cinepolis is a brothel fronting as a movie theater. Right. Is what I'm starting to learn.
It has just these huge leather seats, so we had all the room in the world in the second row. No one could fucking see us. So just there's a lot of just going down on each other. And if we had been fluid bonded at the time, probably would have fucked. The only reason we probably didn't fuck was because like we didn't want to go through the rigmarole. Okay, now we gotta get a condom and try to arrange ourselves and still have me be hard. I think if she could have just simply sat on me, I think we would have done that. So yeah, movies are fun.
Yeah, I mean, they different than my experience. All of my experiences are I sneak food into it, and that's it. I essentially the dirtiest thing I ever did was sneaking 2 hot dogs from Five Guys into a movie theater, and then you know what I did?
Yeah.
I ate them with my urethra.
You dirty boy.
Put them right up my urethra. Yeah, this is
dirty boy.
The worst way. That's hilarious. So,
you haven't to your mother.
Oh no. Oh, absolutely. She's not getting wind of this podcast. Did you? Okay, wait. So you've never had sex in a theater yet?
I've never had like penis in the vagina sex in a movie theater.
So, but is that like on the bucket list? Is that a goal?
Yeah.
Where's this is such a cliche question, but like where is I feel like with everyone else there's like a stupid answer. Where's the weirdest place that you've penised in a vagina?
It's a tie for 2 right now. I had sex in an NYPD parking lot by accident.
By accident?
Yeah.
With a cop?
Nah. with just a chick. There's a short story, and y'all can go find Christina's episode from like, I don't know, she's out back in like the teens or the 20s. It has to do with art, I think. I answered a Craigslist ad for someone wanted to mold a penis for an art project. She wants to meet. So then we meet at a bar to talk to make sure I'm not crazy and that she's not going to cut my dick off. But even then, it's like, was it good? We talk, but we end up kind of flirting during it. And then we make out. And then we start. She's like, you want to get out of here? Sure. We start walking. And this is out. It's not far from where the creek and the cave is.
Oh, okay.
I kind of just like see an alley and kind of just like pull her in and be like, hey, let's go in here and fool around. We make out. There's a dumpster. We kind of like hide behind it because you can't see us from there. And then we fuck behind this dumpster. But as I'm watching people walk by on the sidewalk as we're hidden, when we're finished, and it just looked like a generic parking lot. We were like, oh, parking lot. Finished. Start walking out, and I start noticing as we walk out of it, I'm like, there's a lot of cop cars in here. a lot of cops cars. Then we walk out the alley, and I look up, and it's a precinct. Oh, sorry, across the street is the precinct.
Did you feel like at all like fuck you, de Blasio? Like,
I never understand why people hate de Blasio. One day someone will explain it to me. I'm too busy hating Trump to give a shit.
Exactly. But there was no point of your like, okay.
No, there was no sticking it to the man. There was just like, oh my God, we got away with it.
Yeah, Commissioner Kelly. This is on you, Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah. Time for the fan whore appreciation moment. What is up? This is the part of the podcast where I like to give some shout outs to a few of my my official fan whores on Patreon. Big shout out to Mike H in SF. Nice to finally be sharing a zip code with you, buddy. Gunther, long live Chili. Whatever that means. You seem really passionate about it. Thanks for supporting the show. And a big shout out to David H. Thanks for the bed, buddy. Girlfriend and I, and others, have been thoroughly enjoying it. I can't wait to meet you and the wife at ManWhoreCon. And you too can join the club for as little as $1 per month. Every dollar you pledge goes towards supporting me and the Man Whore podcast and all the work that we're doing over here. Simply go to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. But now let's wrap up with Eitan Levine. The second place was I took to go meet my mother.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't tell her we were meeting my mother. I just said, meet me at the Port Authority. Don't ask questions.
Okay.
So I take her to the gate. I was like, where are we going? I was like, I'm not telling you.
Does this end with you fucking in Port Authority? Because
no, I did not fuck in the Port
Okay.
Authority. That is disgusting.
that's essentially a demilitarized zone.
It's true. There are dudes with M16s just casually being there on watch. Like that's
It's the worst part of New York. It's the worst part of New York.
Yeah. So I tell her we go to the gate where the bus back to my hometown in Jersey is. And she's like, where are we going? I'm not telling you. She doesn't even know we're going to Jersey because it's not even a New Jersey Transit bus. It's a Rockland County bus. It's a Rockland Coaches bus. Right. So that could be going who knows where.
Yeah.
And we get on the bus, and she probably picked up an idea as we're on the thing. But I'm going to take her to my hometown, show her the hood. But as we're on the bus, like just we're being silly, we're making out, we're fooling around.
How many people are on this bus?
Well, as people, get off the buses, we get stops along. It's probably like maybe 40 minutes into the thing. Like we're towards the back, sort of towards the back, not even the full back, but there's no one really behind us. We notice not, there's like maybe a half dozen people in front of us on a big coach bus. And I'm kind of fingering her. She's really wet. And at the time we're fluid bonded, meaning we're not using condoms. Yeah. So I took my cock out and she's stroking and she's sucking. And I'm like, here, get on. And I have her sit on my cock, and then I fuck her on this moving bus. There's a man two rows in front of us.
Ironically, Sing Street is playing.
Sing Street is playing on the coach bus. Yes. Bringing back memories. 2 seats in front of us, there is a man right there, right there. And we fuck, and then she's in a skirt, and I come inside her hard. Mm. We then go, and I walk her around like my hometown neighborhood. I show her like the grade school.
You're still like inside.
Oh no! Well, now once we get off the bus,
no, I'm saying, but like your stuff is still up there.
Yeah, so I'm walking around. I show her like, oh, this is the grade school I got bullied at. This is the pizza place. That's like my second home. This is Kennedy Field. This is where like I played football, where I was better than kids who still said I was bad at the thing while they were on the bench. Bullying is confusing.
Yeah.
Then I bring her to my house. I was like, this is the house I grew up in, and I still had a key. At the time, I was not talking to my family. I just started talking to my family again. I have not seen my mother in almost 2 years. Okay. So I was not talking to my family.
So you're introducing
her
your
and my mom.
girlfriend at the time to your mother who you hadn't seen in 2 years.
Right.
And she's got your semen inside of her at
Yes.
this point. Wow.
And then I showed her the house, but I had texted my mom. I was like, "Could you be home? Like, look, I know we haven't talked yet, and we'll do the thing, but like, this is a woman I'm really madly in love with, and I'd like you to meet her." She meets my ex, and we have this moment. Then I start talking to my mom, and I start getting really emotional because I had a lot of resentment still built up. So I finally let this resentment out to my mother in like a sort of calmed way, and my mom's crying, I'm crying. My ex, she eventually stepped outside. She's like, I was like, "Hey, just give me a few," and so she steps outside. My mom have our first of many talks and do that. We do the hug, I do the goodbye, and then we go. And then we're on the bus, and then tells me, "Hey, I just realized, like, I think I met your mom with like your dry semen like running down my leg."
Whoa.
And I'm like, and then we had a good laugh.
Oh, that's nice. What a beautiful story. What a weirdly beautiful story.
Yep. So those are the two places, the two weirdest places I've had sex publicly would be those. And a slew of other public sex. Public sex is super fun. I'm a big fan. But those would probably be the weirdest at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I was celibate until like 4 years ago, so this is like the exact opposite kind of life that I left.
Well, you were raised Orthodox, and I was wondering, do you want to do maybe like another 10, 15 minutes, a little bonus episode for my Patreon supporters?
Give up for the Patreons.
Yeah, about being raised Orthodox and how that influenced your sexuality and this whole being celibate thing up until recently.
Yeah.
So you down for that?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right,
sure.
but for now, where can people find you?
All right, so Twitter, you can find me at Eitan the Goalie, EITAN THEGOALIE. I am
So media
verified.
Oh, me too.
I
High
am
five.
verified, bro.
Oh, blue check mark up in his ear.
And let me tell you something. Nothing feels better than being verified. It is like climbing. A friend of mine, Max Ash, said this. It's like climbing. Or he was talking about something else, but I think it works here. But getting verified is like climbing the biggest. It's like climbing to the top of Who Gives a Fuck Mountain. I think it's
so
like the
true.
most. Like it means nothing, but holy fuck, does it feel great?
And super useful, by the way, let's say when you're trying to book people that you
Yeah.
otherwise would be outside your reach.
All you non-verified idiots out there don't know this, but when you get verified, you get in your notification section, you get a third, what's it called? Like vertical.
Like a third like filter.
Yeah, so it
or
says
whatever.
like who's mentioning you, who's liking you, and then you also get to see who verified.
Like
is
who
doing
interacts
that.
with you, who's verified. You just
Yeah.
get full. It's literally called verified tab.
Yeah,
It's
And
awesome.
Literally, it's how Josh Hutcherson talks to
Yeah.
all the other Josh Hutchersons.
It's how the
out there.
celebrities shit on us, shit on the plebeians to each other privately.
Oh yeah, it's our Raya. It's our
Well,
Raya.
but I went to see Hamilton, right? And I've been verified,
Which
a
is
couple
great.
years.
I will say, okay, let me give you like the small wrap up of this. Is
Sure.
that Lin-Manuel Miranda knows about Hamilton? In fact, Hamilton. Sorry. When we had done it, when it first came, when we had the press release, so the press release came out. A friend of mine who was friends with someone that was making the Hamilton documentary. So there were two Hamilton documentaries happening at the time, Hamilton and Hamilton. And she goes, Lin-Manuel Miranda knows about this. And not only do you know about it, he's a huge fan. He's so big of a fan that the quote was, he's probably going to hold a viewing party when it comes out, which I thought was beautiful. And we have since tried multiple times to get in touch with him. It has not worked. I've met cast members from Hamilton since then. They have not been helpful. And there was, so there's that.
Well, we almost got a cast member on this show.
Whoa.
The night I saw it, I went and I went to New York Comedy Club to go do late night. And as I did, I started following some of the cast members, including Hamilton, Javier Munoz.
Oh, okay, yeah, the guy that he took over for Lynn,
who is no longer now Hamilton. He's now stepped down, right? He's going on to bigger and greater things.
Yeah.
But I followed him. He followed me back. I then tweeted a screenshot of him following me to be like, "Hey, everybody, you think he's a big Man or podcast fan? Ha ha ha." He's like, "Is that a?" But I wonder if he would do the. I think he'd make a great guest. And
1,000%.
He tweets back, "Is that an invitation?" What? I said, I have the honor to be your obedient servant, B.Pro. My DMs are open. He slid in my DMs. Hamilton slid in my DMs. We started talking. He was like, "Yeah, no, I'm into it. Let's do it." We get a date down. He had to cancel last minute because he booked. I think he had booked like a Samantha Bee thing, so he did that. And then since then, I've not been able to get the rebooking.
And the thing on him I've always heard is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is great as Hamilton. Javier is great and sexy.
Yeah, he's the sexy Hamilton.
He's the sexy Hamilton.
In my research leading up to our recording, it was that he's the sexy Hamilton.
That's what, yeah. Man. Well, I hope that happens.
Fingers crossed. I think that'd be a really fun live show. Do like an HIV or Puerto Rico fundraiser.
Oh, there you go. Well, when we did the viewing party of Ideology, I had this bit where
this is the longest plug section
of all time. This whole podcast is just one big plug.
We do a separate spin-off podcast, which is the Plugs podcast.
When we did the Videology thing, sorry, not anybody. So we had a bunch of T-shirts that I had from Rock that we ended up auctioning off, and we raised $177.69 for Puerto Rico relief, which I thought was an interesting. I literally the thing I was like, listen, I'm going to go to Lin-Manuel Miranda's Twitter. I'm going to go to Lin-Manuel Miranda's Twitter. I'm going to go to Limam's Facebook Twitter account and find the last charity he donated to that he plugged, and we're just going to donate all the money there. And we ended up donating some nice money to Puerto Rico, which was a fun cap to the story.
Nice.
I think. So find me on Twitter.
Back to the important shit.
So follow me on Twitter and donate to Puerto Rico. Those are the two most important parts of this that you need to know.
Amazing, Eitan. Well, Patreon people, you're going to hear a bonus episode tomorrow. But for now, why don't you say goodbye to everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Alexander Hamilton. I'm Alexander Hamilton. There's a million loads I haven't blown. My dick is great. My dick is great.
That was one hell of a story. I know a lot of times we wonder, like, oh, how does the meat get made in porn? I don't think we often think about, like, oh, where'd they come up with that story idea? That was a fantastic telling by Eitan. I'm so happy that I got to talk with him. I hope you go follow him on the places. And if you want to hear more of Eitan Levine, he's got a bonus episode coming out tomorrow exclusively to my $5 and up fan whores on Patreon. To gain access to that, head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. That's Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. I want to know what you thought about the episode. Shoot me an email with your comments or your questions or, hey, maybe even your booby pictures to manwhorepod@gmail.com. You can always give me a shout out on the social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram @TheBillyPresida. Some of you may wonder what I may be looking like. Well, gotta go on over there to find out. Of course, like the Man Whore Podcast Facebook fan page. Simply search Man Whore Podcast. I pop right up, and I hope you all enjoyed this week's show. This was episode 199. Holy fuck. Next week, we got episode 200, where two gorgeous listeners will be taking a hold of the mics as they interview me for a change. Looking forward to celebrating 200 delightful episodes with all of you next week. But until then, stay slutty.
How does the offspring of a box spring plaything, a man who came from nothing, become a man who came on everything? He discovered the menage a trois, the first to fuck two pussies raw. Despite British law, the magic of a three-way. Ta-da!
A well-endowed man with a dick thick and tan, screwing peaches on the beaches of the Caribbean.
He was a pounding father and piled drive the island daughters, taught them all a fucking lesson like his name was Mr. Cotter.
His fame came from his main vein, got his name under a frame, around a big pic of his big prick in the AVN Hall of Fame.
But every score to him meant nothing. He wasn't comfy with just British buffing. What's your poor name, man?
Alexander Hamilton. I'm Alexander Hamilton. There's a million loads I haven't blown. My dick is great. My dick is great.